2017 was the ultra move in great and amazing video games that came out for this decade. There were just so many great games that either hit it out of the park or simply did things in a completely new way that it just had to be played. It's honestly amazing how many great games came out in 2017. And it's completely understandable to me why I didn't get to a lot of them. Here are the games you won't be seeing on this year's list. With that out of the way, I now present you with the top 10 games I played and beaten in 2017. Let's go! Number 10. The problem with Tropical Freeze is that I never really got to play it on my own. It's been a deep regret I've had for this game for a while now. I certainly don't love it as much as Donkey Kong Country 2, but the game still oozes with charm and personality that when I do pick it up, I kinda don't want to stop playing it. That's what caused this 2014 something game to finally be played and beaten fully in 2017. I guess now it's a 2018 re-release, so technically I'm ahead of the curve. I was very pleased, however, when I actually decided to stream it, and I was having as much fun as I did with the older Donkey Kong Country games. The only real problem being is that I no longer have the same love for them as I used to. Make no mistake though, when I put this game in my number 10 spot, because this game still has all the stuff that you usually want in Donkey Kong Country game. Minecarts, precision barrel hopping, tricky platforming, and of course DuckTales. Seriously, this game is such a nostalgia trip of feelings of its game mechanics that it almost feels off how well they replicated the Donkey Kong Country formula. I may have grown a little out of the Donkey Kong Country formula to not love it as much as I used to, but Tropical Freeze still provides itself to be as engaging as the older games. Not to mention just as challenging. This game will hurt even the toughest of gamers pride how often you'll die. Thankfully there are plenty of lives to get as well as collectibles. If you haven't played this game yet, well, you'll get your chance with an all new funky mode. And heck, that's enough reason for me to double dip the chip.
What are you doing?
Number 9. Oh, did you expect Sonic Mania? Do you think that the 2D would beat the 3D? Well, if you listen to the critics, the fans, the Sonic Discords, and very famous internet peoples out there, then you'd be right. But they're not here right now, right? Sonic Forces is something I love unironically with all my heart, because I know there are so many fans out there that are enjoying making their very own Sonic OC and being able to play it in-game. Sonic Forces has a ton of problems, sure. The levels are too small, classic gameplay is hecka wonky, and the story is full of a lot of plot holes. But it seems to me to be this perfect mismatch of just enough there to keep going back to it. I'll admit now the better game would be Sonic Mania, but with my absolute distaste of Sonic 2D, the fast and easy access of Sonic Forces, and the reasoning to replay each game and level over and over again, this game just grew on me more. While I'm still not keen on how short a lot of the levels are, most of which only last like 2 minutes, the ability to go back and restart them because they are so short ironically gave me more of a reason to play it and love it for that. With a lot of other Sonic games, you can spend hours just learning a level, compared to Forces where the levels can be learned in a matter of minutes. And when you're actually performing well enough, all those missteps Forces has kind of fades away. Yes, even classic Sonic stages are better. Thankfully enough, some of the best stages in Sonic Forces are the team-up stages where Sonic and your avatar are playing together, and it honestly creates some of the most fun and creative Sonic levels I've ever experienced to date. It's really a shame that these stages are largely varying in what amounts to the average game for a lot of people. If only the whole game was a sort of team-up with Sonic a la Team Chaotix, Sonic Forces would have had a different public reaction than a simply meh. Regardless, I feel this game is rather overlooked for what it does right because it's so easy to point out what it does wrong. Either way, Sonic Forces will always remain as a game that crawled in my heart despite everyone's feeling for it otherwise. Number 8. Sometimes the best things in life are the things you've done again and again. And thank goodness the N.Sane trilogy got that right. Aside from some hiccups with its hit detection and forced time trials modes for 1 and 2, the N.Sane trilogy was able to show us a near one-to-one update of what made Crash Bandicoot so great in the first place. Constant collectathons, mild speedrunning, 3D and 2D platforming mixed together, and of course the abuse of cute and adorable animals. It's such a weird thing to come back to, honestly, seeing so much animation and character into a video game with how wacky and goofy Crash comes off at times. I'm honestly a bit amazed how he just sort of fell off the earth after Crash Team Racing, or that the addition of Coco in this game is just so freaking great. Still, these trio of games show a very clear picture that sometimes the very basic things, like platforming, could sweep any gamer off their feet. And with a starting price of $40, it's practically a bargain for any gamer that missed out on these classic games. Just for you newbies out there though, you might not want to skip Crash 1, because while they did make the first game easier, it's still harder than Dark Souls. Number 7. Mega Man Legends was one of the first games I played this year, and honestly I just remember it as charming as heck. The bad voice acting that eventually gets better, the polygons that remind me how jaggy the 90s were, and let's not forget the dancing monkey! So it's certainly one of those games that made the transfer from 2D to 3D with such experimental flair that it oozes with charm and substance throughout. If there was one thing I love about any given game, it's the potential that it has to get better and better as it goes on. The way the digger system works, the Metroid-esque map system mixed together with the roguelike qualities, it's just something you don't think would be as fun as it is. And yet every time I dig for more Zenny, the more and more I was entertained by the deeper lore behind all these creatures we met along the way, and how the tunnel system worked in general. Literally topping it off with a bubbly overworld and Team Rocket-esque baddies that made the surface world more of a delight than the underground, led to a lot of joy that I'm sure a lot of fans of the series have come to expect. The final boss still kinda sucks though, and so does the fact that Capcom won't bring back this charming series. Come on! Number 6. While the first game in the franchise certainly isn't worth the $300 entry fee, the series has progressively gotten better and better as time has gone on, with the peak being Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. And while I do believe the series has only improved over the years, Half-Genie Hero feels like the game that finally has its own identity compared to its mixed-matched older sisters, a Metroidvania Zelda-esque born gameplay. Now mind you, I don't dislike the older games and I still find Pirate's Curse to be great fun, but Half-Genie Hero just takes Shantae on a more Castlevania side of the Metroidvania genre. Half-Genie Hero trades a lot of its common Zelda dungeon scenes and heavy exploration-based formula for a far more suitable form of Castlevania platforming, and it really fits the series a whole lot better. The game feels faster and gets the heart pumping from its callbacks to the original Castlevania level design, and finally adding in all the transformations back not only feels right at home, but it's done better than the series has ever done before. Honestly, if Pirate's Curse is a sign of a great Metroid copy, then Half-Genie Hero would be that of a Castlevania copy. Then you add in all the charming characters and dialogue that really help make the game stand out, as well as a few of the DLC and the new game modes that they added with the Kickstarter. Not only makes this a successful one, but a fantastic Kickstarter game at that. Number 5. I have an odd love affair for Splatoon 2, and while I played the original to death, I've yet to find my drive to play the sequel nearly as much. I don't know what it is exactly, starting from square one, not finding the right weapon, or simply because Overwatch competes for that time as well. Regardless, the actual reason why I put this game so high despite my falling out with its multiplayer is its stellar single player campaign that literally enhances everything the original did and adds some more. While the actual plot is somewhat recycled, the new level design, the use of different weapons in given levels, and added collectibles really make its single player shine. Levels are far more thought out for any given weapon, making them accessible for each one, and that makes me a very happy charger. They also have new mechanics that make levels far more interesting, like this little hook shot point thing. Whenever you ink it, you just like go right over there. Just so many little improvements on top of bigger ones that just really make the campaign shine. Topped off of an impressive final boss that ends in such a hype way that any of the problems that you may have had with Splatoon 2's campaign just doesn't seem to matter. While I may not have sunk as many hours into multiplayer, I certainly had a lot of fun and excitement with its single player campaign, and that's what makes this game woo me right into my heart. Number 4. I'm going to be the first to tell you that the movie was horrible. Use your cliches, remove content and context from the original, and of course no gameplay. But this isn't the movie we're talking about here, it's the game based on the movie based on the original video game. And despite its usage of blocking cutscenes literally in the movie, making it a complete waste of time, the game shines completely. Not only does the game use the majority of the movie's script, but it also has plenty of cutscenes and moments that weren't in the movie, and honestly makes the whole story far more enjoyable and coherent. And while they do drop something in the original game, picking up the newer style of Ratchet and Clank makes this game so much better. For those unfamiliar with Ratchet and Clank, it's a run and gun platform with an RPG level up system, and plenty of witty dialogue. It's honestly surprising how much they improved over the older game, which also brings new life to it as it's not just a remake, but reimagining the original game and story. Certain parts just don't drag on as much as they did with the original, and any problems the original did have, the new system fixes, like strafing, which wasn't present at all in the first game. Overall, Ratchet and Clank 2016 is seriously the prime example of how to do a remake right, by adding in all the good elements from the newer systems and getting a far better experience from the original by tenfold. Number 3. If there's any game for 2017 that shocked me how good it was, Yakuza Kiwami was it. It's a series that certainly hasn't gotten a lot of love in the West, and it's starting to finally get popular here. I'm so glad that it is here, and that I finally got to play the remake of the first Yakuza. There certainly is a lot to unpack when it comes to enjoying the Yakuza franchise, but I think the big headline here is how amazingly husbando material Kiryu-chan is. It really does take a whole lot to make a protagonist likable, double if he talks, and somehow Sega managed to make Kiryu-chan just generally one of the best people to play as. Nearly half of my enjoyment for this game was simply because Kiryu-chan is so calm, collected, and honor-bound. He has so many badass moments along with some surprisingly quirky and even emotional ones. It's just honestly kind of funny. One moment you'll be pounding a dude's face with a bike, and next you'll be driving a toy car, and then you'll be helping a young girl try to sell matches. Yakuza is a wild ride from start to finish, and it has all the makings of a great drama and action-backed brawler within it. But the game certainly wouldn't mean as much if Kiryu-chan wasn't behind the wheel. Also Majima. Majima everywhere is easily one of the best kind of Easter eggs in this game. It's just so fun to see exactly where he'll pop up next, and brings the whole entire mystery to this game that just didn't have it in the original. Either way, Yakuza Kiwami has totally piqued my interest in the Yakuza series, and it's certainly something I'm looking forward to catch up to. Number 2. Unlike the majority of the Earth, I was not hyped for the new Zelda game. I had a lot of reservations for it being open world and seemingly not having a lot of characters or towns to explore. But I am so glad I was wrong. While Breath of the Wild does have a spotty start when it comes to story, exploration is always out on the forefront and really makes the whole thing really interesting from the very beginning. You're always being rewarded for exploring areas with a bunch of smaller puzzles and neat weapons that you can use along the way. While Breath of the Wild does have a spotty start when it comes to story, exploration is always out in the forefront and really makes the whole thing feel interesting from the very beginning. You're always being rewarded for exploring areas with a bunch of smaller puzzles and neat weapons that you can use along the way. There always seems to be a new place or given area you want to explore, even after you feel like you've done it all. And honestly, it's because of all these smaller puzzles and neat little features this game has to offer. So many puzzles to do in any given order, places to wander around at different times, or using different methods, and a bunch of ways you can interact with enemies and townspeople. It's just odd because all these little moments you experience in-game add up to something greater, and only enhances when you start thinking outside the bun when it comes to puzzles. Nintendo has given a lot of thought to a lot of these puzzles, but perhaps the best thing they did for Breath of the Wild was give players more agency on how to solve these puzzles. Sometimes it really feels like you're not supposed to be in a given area or place just yet, and it feels so exciting to get there and solve a puzzle despite you clearly doing it the wrong way to get that resolution. Then when you start adding in some of the more world-building elements, the dynamics of characters you meet, the merry cutscene system, it just offers so much more in terms of content and atmosphere than any other Zelda game before it. And that includes Majora's Mask. The only really problem that comes with such a big game is that it's such a unique experience. So much so that it's hard for any two players to have the same exact adventure. The game can be too vast to explore at times and give you so many things to do that you literally could be overwhelmed. And a lot of people can't handle that or lose interest over time. And then other times you're exploring so much that you feel like you've seen it all. Then you realize there are dragons in this game. Honorable mentions. Zack and Wiki. Amazingly clever puzzles and brimming with the charm of a Saturday morning cartoon show. Disney Afternoon Collection. Amazing price for a trip to the past with a bunch of beloved games. Star Fox 2. Waited 20 years to play and honestly delivered what I wanted all those years ago. Don't judge me. Danganronpa 2. Built so much on everything the first game set up and makes everything better. Castlevania. Lament of Innocence. It actually translates Metroidvania really well into the 3D realm. Number 1. Super Mario Odyssey simply has some of the best controls, music, atmosphere, challenge, and charm of any Mario game to date. And that is saying a lot for this plumber. While I'm still not sure I call it the best game, or even the best Mario game out there, it does make a statement that Nintendo will never stop trying to push the envelope and make games more fun or inventive. Honestly, I'm still kind of surprised how much movement can be pulled off of this game, and by all means, I love this attitude Nintendo has about giving the player more than enough tools to reach your goal any way you want. Odyssey just feels so carefree and fun to explore because of this, and truly helps it shine as a unique experience for any one person, and a spectacle when watching it be speedrun. Then you have all these new worlds with different characters, really upbeat music, and really amazing atmosphere just jam-packed with a bunch of hidden stars, mini-games, and purple stuff. And have we even talked about the enemy capture mechanic? Easily some of the most interesting and entertaining powers in a Mario game to date. You don't even have to find it in a block! All these enemies' unique design and movements give it such a different way to play Odyssey that it helps it not be too boring because you're always moving differently, or attacking differently, or opening new puzzles, or even racing differently. It's such a simple concept that provides so many unique options and challenges that it's kind of a shame that it just got realized now. Basically what I'm trying to say is Super Mario Odyssey helped make Mario feel new again, and constantly provided new and interesting things constantly as you played along. It's not a slow burn, but a constant question of what's this, and how do I get there? And this game really is freedom like you never knew, and honestly my top pick for 2017. So what do y'all think? Got some different opinions than me? How dare! Well, I suppose that's what the comments section is for. And thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please share it if you can. Post some of your favorite games for 2017, and I shall see you all next time. Sayonara, bye bye.